Hello, y'all. Hello, hello, hello. Happy Thursday. It is Therapy Thursday. How are you doing? How are you doing? Come on in to the room. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is Therapy Thursday. You are listening to Dr. Triffy. I'm a licensed psychologist in Atlanta, Georgia, and every Thursday I show up for Transforming Trauma with Dr. Triffy. My intention is to share tips and strategies and techniques to help you think better so you can feel better and do better. Okay? I also hope that you learn these tools and you apply them into your day-to-day lives so that you can transcend traumatic events that are continuing to cause you pain. Okay. I'm wearing a little bit of madras tonight because this is October and I'm originally from Dominica, not to be confused with the Dominican Republic. We love them, yes, but we're a completely different island. We're further south and we're located between Guadeloupe and Martinique. So every October, everybody is focused on our cultural heritage. And the madras forms the foundation of our national wear. So I hope one of those days you come visit Dominica. I am not in Dominica right now. I practice in Atlanta, Georgia, but I have managed to hold on to my accent. I have managed to hold on to my accent on purpose. Okay, y'all, tonight we're going a little higher tonight. Okay, we're going a little higher tonight. Tonight, I want to do a review of the book, The Four Agreements. The Four Agreements. The Four Agreements. And I will add the fifth. So, this little book is a powerful little book that offers a way to live, a way to, the way I look at it is, I think the adult in us must go back mentally, emotionally to rescue the child in us. And this book offers a way to do that if we're willing to do the work. It takes work. What do I mean by that? It takes energy, it takes attention, it takes focus, it takes raising your awareness, paying attention to yourself, understanding who you are. Okay? So, who is Don Miguel Ruiz? He's the author of the books, many books. Yes? This book was first published in 1997. And many of you will remember that Oprah has highlighted this book as one of her most impactful books. And the book's been popular around the world because people are finding the value in applying these principles that Don Miguel Ruiz has taken a lot of time explaining, exploring, and teaching. So he was born in Mexico and had a grandpa who was a shaman. If you grow up in a healing family, your family wants you to continue that heritage. But he actually chose to do medicine, but returned back to his roots, so to speak, of shamanic wisdom and shared a lot of the teachings of the Toltec people, who he's from a line of Toltec people. He shared a lot of their teachings that are universal in nature. And if you're willing tonight, you will listen all the way through and apply these 5 new ways potentially for you at walking through life. Okay. Don Miguel Ruiz says that perhaps our biggest fear is not death. Most of us think, oh, yeah, I'm afraid of dying. Yeah, most people are afraid of dying. Actually, he says, perhaps our biggest fear is of being our true self or real self, the real self that you alone think about, perhaps, and perhaps you've never shared that real self with anybody else. Why do you think that is? Well, think about it. When we are born into families, and our family has its own rules. So they teach us who we're going to be. They teach us this is good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong. The next family right across the street is doing the same thing to their kids. They're socializing them, but perhaps they're teaching them completely different things. Hmm? The point of family life and society life really is to kind of tame us, domesticate us, teach us how to be good human beings, how to follow rules, hmm? How to do things that don't embarrass our parents, hmm? How to get along, how to navigate life. The problem with that is you, the little child who was born into that family, perhaps you feel yourself to be completely different. Or perhaps there were things that you were doing. Think about it. You see little kids, they're flying around, they're running around, they think they can do everything. But who tells them they cannot? Parents do. We tell them, no, stop running so fast. Stop climbing up this thing. You'll get hurt. Yeah, it's a way our parents and our society, they're trying to keep us safe. They're trying to groom us, again, to be successful adults. But when you keep hearing these messages, no, not like that, don't do that. If you did it this way, you're a bad person. You're wrong. You're not good. What happens to the little child? The little child encodes that message that being who I am, who I feel myself to be, that's wrong. On some level, I just am not perfect. And yes, there's no perfection, yeah, on the planet, but a lot of us end up feeling very afraid to be our real selves. We feel very anxious when we have to do things that put us outside of the group. It's terrifying for some people. And so, what ends up happening is they live a life of mediocrity, but envy and admiration of the people who they think are living their best lives. The thing is, you too can do this. And you have a right to do this. You have a right to live the life that you feel called to live. You have a right to do things that feel good for you, that feel right for you. My little caveats, if they're legal, ethical, moral, yeah, according to your code or according to where you live or what time you're living, because depending on the time you're living, cannabis is legal or it's illegal. You understand? Okay, so let's talk about the 4 agreements that Don Miguel Ruiz says if you can focus on these 4 ways of being, you will eliminate a lot of your suffering, a lot of your angst, a lot of your anxiety, a lot of your worry, a lot of the things that hold you back. And who's holding you back? The stories you're telling yourself in here, that's what's determining what choices you make. Yes? Am I right or am I right? So, if you can learn how to rethink the stories you've been telling yourself, where did you get those stories? Again, from church, the church you grew up in, the family you grew up in, the country you grew up in, the state, the city. Okay? All right. The first one is to be impeccable with your word. What does that mean? And why is that so challenging? Think about it. How many of us are completely straight with what we're saying? How many of us speak always in integrity? Huh? How many of us say what we truly mean to say and mean what we say when we say what we say? That first agreement that he's asking you to implement, huh, is to use your word. Word is life. Word is what creates. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was, you fill in the blank if you grew up in the Christian tradition. Yeah. So with word, we create. So word is also my thought. What I'm thinking is also word. So what words am I using to talk to myself? How am I describing myself? What am I telling myself about what I can do and what I cannot do? Am I being honest when I say, I can't do that? That's too much for me. Am I really being honest? So he's asking us to be like a, there's a Creole parable. I'm from Dominica, like I said, and we have these words of wisdom from our ancestors that are similar to the wisdom you get from all old civilizations. And one of them is like, it's only the knife that knows what's in the heart of the pumpkin. Eh? C'est un couteau qui connaît sa cache jamu. That is about truth. That's about truth. That's about word and intention matching up. Being honest with yourself, not just about what you can do, what you cannot do, but I think a lot of people, we have been taught to be critical of ourselves. We've been taught, no. We've been taught, don't do it like that. We've been taught that there are always people watch what we're doing and how we're doing it, and they're going to have something to say about it. And that it's perhaps safer for us to stay in the safe cocoon where we feel protected and unchallenged, but also not very anxious. So Don Miguel Ruiz is saying, be impeccable with your word. Pay attention to the kinds of words you are using in that little mental space of yours, because it's in that mental space. From that mental space, you create your reality. There is nothing I can tell you that will have as much impact on you changing your behavior or the way you view yourself as what you are telling yourself. So you have an assignment. You have an assignment. And I know, like I said, it's going to take effort. It's also going to require a high level of awareness when you're paying attention to what's going on in your head and what's leaving your mouth. And sometimes, depending on what leaves your mouth, calling it back or restating it in a clearer, more honest. Okay? So be impeccable with your word. There's a part in that first agreement that's about, how am I speaking about other people behind their back? How am I speaking behind other people's backs? Am I gossiping about them? Am I just always looking for their flaws? Hmm? I'm asking you to do some deep, deep work tonight. But from that deep work, I promise you, you're going to ease yourself from a lot of suffering and a lot of distress, a lot of pain. Okay? Use the power of your word in the direction of truth. So if you've got to say something, let it be leaning towards truth. Let it be leaning towards love. Let it be leaning towards something righteous, where your intention is that something good comes out of what it is you're talking about, and that you're not just saying something to hurt. Okay? Now, what's the second agreement? And this is an agreement you make with yourself. Like I said, it doesn't matter what I say to you, you are, you're the one in control of your life. So you have to make those decisions. You have to think about it and see, does that make sense for me? Does that make sense for me? Do I feel better just continuing to lie and gossip? Do I feel better telling myself stories that are not helpful for me, that are not taking me any closer to what I want to accomplish? So you have to make that call. If you do make that call, he's encouraging you to start there with your word, and you will be paying attention to the words that are leaving your mouth and the words that you are saying to yourself, also the words you're receiving from other people. So, number two, don't take anything personally. Seriously? Yes. Nothing anybody else does is really about you. What other people are doing, what they're saying about you, that's a projection. When there's projection, they mean what from out, like on a screen. So from their thoughts, from the way they feel about themselves, from the way they feel about life, based on the grooming they got, the experiences they had, they're interpreting information in their way, and they're using words. I'm using words. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. I'm sharing with you what my inner reality is. Essentially, the way I view the world is what I'm projecting out to you. If I say something that elicits pain in you, if your mate, your child does something and you feel yourself responding with sadness, frustration, anger, rage, anxiety, whatever that is, he is asking you not to take their actions personally, as if they were not meaning to hurt you necessarily. Don't take it personally. Become immune to other people's actions and their opinions, and you won't be the victim of needless suffering. Okay, in real life, how does that work? How does that work in real life? That I have a spouse who cheats on me. How am I not to take that personally? You're not to take it personally, he says, because that person is living out their own thought life, their own experience. It's not you. It's not that you did something to cause it. You might have to make choices about that person's action based on your emotional response, based on your own ideas about what's right, what's wrong, what's good for you, what's not. But he's saying what a person does or what they say is not about you. Don't take it personally. It's about them. Do you see how that requires a lot of work and practice and trying to see how can I really survive, these kinds of experiences? It takes practice. It takes awareness. It takes you noticing when you do feel the pain, and perhaps you reminding yourself, okay, I will not take this personally. This is about this person's choice. They have a right to do whatever it is they want to do. They have a right to say whatever it is they want to say, but so do I. And so I can make choices in my best interest, but I don't have to take it personally as if look at what they're doing to me. No. If somebody's talking bad about you, they're not doing anything to you. They're speaking, they're using words that are of a particular vibration. Yeah. but they're not doing anything to you. Okay. Number three, stop making assumptions. Don't make assumptions. Don't assume you know why somebody's doing what they're doing. No. Don't make assumptions. Don't expect other people to read your mind, to know what you need. Don't make assumptions that somebody's trying to help you or hurt you. Find the courage instead to use your words if you want to find out, to ask for what feels good for you or what you want, or to express your needs. Practice using words to express your needs. Practice using words to express what you're feeling. And do not ever assume that somebody outside of you should know what is good for you or what is right for you or what you need. Okay? Communicate as clearly as you can to avoid misunderstandings, to avoid sadness, and to avoid drama. So you do your best to communicate with other people as clearly as you can so that they know, for example, ouch, you have every right to do this. But when you do it, I feel pain. I feel sad. I feel anxious. I feel worried. What do you think about not doing it again? This is you asking courageously and clearly what you would prefer instead, as opposed to something that a lot of us do, which is to just freeze, shut down, or we become very angry, we lash out because we tell ourselves a story. We use words that are not impeccable up here. We tell ourselves a story that this person does not like me. This person does not care about me. This person wants to hurt me. Yes. And what does that lead to? Pain, emotional pain, and suffering. So instead, be courageous. I'm saying be courageous because I know many of us are shy. And many of us were afraid of the response we'll get when we ask the question. But the alternative is worse. The alternative is worse. So, what are you going to practice? You're going to stop making assumptions and you're going to use your words as clearly as you can. And when it doesn't come out in a way that it seems like the other person received it, try restating it. Do your best to avoid misunderstandings, to share what you're truly feeling, share your real self, and take the risk that they may not like you that you did it. Take the risk that they may not agree with what you're asking for, because that's more in your best interest than to make an assumption. Okay? We're going to number 4 and number 5 in a minute. Noreen, how are you? Noreen says you are so right. How do you say your name? Leah May says, I know, right? Facebook user, good evening. Y'all, we are on a mission to create the lives we want. Yeah. Lives that feel good, lives that we want to wake up to in the morning. Yes. And there are, as you're seeing, there are ways to do it, but it requires effort, time, energy, commitment. Yes. And I also think a belief and an understanding, not even a belief. You don't even have to believe this for it to be true. You are worthy of this, and you are just as able of creating it as the next person. Yes. So it's a matter of knowing what to do and then taking the next step of actually doing it. Of actually doing it. Okay. The doing part. I can sit and dream and think about it and read lovely books and listen to beautiful meditations all I want. But I have to take the next right action. Number 4 is always Do your best. In every situation, give what you believe is your best in that moment. Okay. Situations change, don't they? Some days you're sick. Some days you didn't sleep well. Some days you're not even sure why you're out of sorts. But whatever it is, hold an awareness to do your best. Whatever that feels like in that moment for you. Okay? Your best, like I said, it's going to change from moment to moment. But you are going to know if that was your best. Under any circumstance, you just simply set the intention and do it. Do it. Do it. This is about action. This is not just about a mental decision. Yes, this is about actual doing of things. Do your best and forget the rest. Release your attachment to the results. You cannot always, I mean, how can you can imagine the results, but you have no there's no way to really have the results show up or appear or come to fruition exactly as you imagine it. But do your best in the moment. Okay, do your best in the moment. Under any circumstance, do your best so that you can avoid judging yourself or beating yourself up or regretting. Yeah, oh, if I had only known, I would have tried such and such. Well, in that moment, try the such and such. It might not work, but you are going to feel, you know what? I put out my best and it was not good enough for that particular set of circumstances. I'm still feeling okay and whole. And it is so painful. It is very destructive, this ongoing self judgment, self abuse, self criticism, the ruminating. Oh, I should have done it this way. Oh, why didn't I do it like that? Oh, I'm the worst. I'll never get it right. This is so, it's useless. It's unproductive. Besides being useless, it's poisonous to you because it's not even as if somebody else is giving you that amount of stress. You are doing it to yourself. You're the one doing it to yourself. So do your best and release your attachment to the rest. Okay? Now, the four agreements were very popular for a long time. And then Don Don Miguel Ruiz, he wrote a fifth one. Okay? Now that one is about keeping healthy self-doubt, yeah, keeping your common sense, but staying open. So he says, remain skeptical. Yes, be skeptical of everything you hear. Be skeptical of what I'm telling you. Be skeptical of what you're hearing from me. But learn to listen carefully. Learn to stay open and listen all the way to the end. Why? You're not just going to, well, some people do, but please stop accepting people's words as if it's gospel just because you like them, or just because they look handsome or pretty, or because they go to a particular church, or because they're dressed in a particular way, or because they smell good. Stop it. Stop, stop, stop. Hmm? Yes, stay open. This person has stuff to say to you. They're using words. Yeah, they're using words. Stay open, but practice using your judgment. Yeah, stay curious, but maintain a sense of skepticism all the way to the end. What are they saying, Dominica? You eat the meat and you throw away the bones. Everything a person is saying might not be resonating with you, but you don't just shut that line down because 5 minutes into the discussion or the whatever, they said something that you're like, oh, I don't agree right away, and you just shut it down. That's not in your best interest, because what if you didn't listen all the way to the end and there was so much that came after that part where you just shut the person down? So stay curious, stay open, but be skeptical. He says that controlled opposition can take place in your own mind with the concept of cognitive dissonance. Okay, so cognitive dissonance is when in your mind you're like, yeah, this doesn't add up. This doesn't line up with what I'm thinking is true. But you might be getting new information, evidence-based information, backed up by reputable sources. What are you going to do? Are you going to hold on to the original idea? Why? You know why a lot of us do it? A lot of us are afraid to welcome the new evidence-based information because of the way we were raised. Yeah. So depending on who is holding that first set of beliefs, some of us will guard it with our lives, although we get new data because we want to seem like we're good little kids. We're not rocking the boat. We're nice people. Now, do you not see how that can cause you suffering? So, this way of living is about courage. It's about courage and remaining aware, paying attention to yourself. In the end, it's really about you. It's about what's going on up here. Who's directing your traffic? And how are you directing your mental traffic? Okay? So, the 5 agreements to review. And as I review them with you, what is your takeaway tonight? Type it in the chat so I know what you're taking away from this tonight. Because I'm asking you to do stuff that is not just push a button. It's not. It takes time, and it takes trying it and feeling uncomfortable doing it. Yeah, and stopping for like a good 3 weeks, 3 months, and then returning because you're like, you know what? Let me keep moving forward. Let me keep going higher. Let me keep adjusting my life. Let me keep nipping and tucking until I have the outcomes I'm looking for with as little suffering as possible. You're not here to be a lambi, a conch. um, that analogy will make sense to people from the Caribbean, because when you get conch from the ocean, to make it edible, we've got to pound it. So you're not a conch, so the sooner you apply better ways, more efficient ways of living your life, the faster you get the results you're looking for. And again, with less suffering, more freedom in your life, less suffering, more understanding that it is you who are the director. You are the creator of what's happening in your life. And yes, you live in families, and yes, you live in marriages, and you have to consider other people, but it's got to start here. Got to start here. Okay. So Noreen says her takeaway is creating the life you want, being consistent, and doing the work. It is not easy. It's just not, I'm just going to pray and it's going to happen. Because you come on now, we've been alive long enough. You see that when you just pray, that's not all it takes. You've got to do things. We've got to do things. Okay. So number 1, the first agreement is perhaps the most important, because that's the programming. That's the one. Number 1, that's up here in that engine that's directing your life. So be impeccable with your word to other people. Try your best. If you're saying something and you realize I'm lying, I'm shading the truth right here. Find a way to restate it so that you feel better about yourself. You might have a habit of lying, yeah, telling untruths, making stories. You're not unusual. Many of us learn that way as children to keep being good, to keep people loving us. Yes? So it might be a habit or a way the child in you learned to survive. So as an adult, the adult must return and rescue the child. Start today using words in integrity, using words that line up with you. Yeah? Using words that after you've said them, you can leave them there and you walk away and you feel good. And you don't carry this, oh my God, why did I say that? I shouldn't have said that. That was not nice. I was wrong. Hmm? In the moment, practice holding your anxiety, the anxiety that you might be feeling, yeah, trying to impress somebody else or trying to get away with something that you know is wrong. Yeah, hold your anxiety and redo it. Try your best to restate things in the moment. You're sitting and you catch yourself thinking certain things. Boy, I'm the worst person. That was wrong. I feel so guilty. I'm so ashamed. Why did I do that? I wish I could do it again. Check that. Hmm? Restate that. Perhaps say something to yourself like, you know what? I did the best that I could in the moment. I will do better next time. As opposed to this relentless assault, it doesn't help you. It doesn't make you a better person. Yeah, you might be building a lot of guilt again in the way you did as a child, based on how you were raised, where you were raised, what church you went to, but it is going to slow you down. It's going to be a mental roadblock and a behavioral and an emotional roadblock because it causes a lot of suffering. And the thing is, nobody else outside of you can really help you until you change the narrative you're using on yourself. This is critical. This is so critical. You have to undo the nasty words you're saying to yourself. You've got to stop because it doesn't help you. I think some people think that it helps them be a better person. It really doesn't. It takes a lot of your positive energy away that you should be using, you ought to be using for creating new things. It's a horrible, horrible, horrible habit. What's his name? There's a book that you might think about reading. It's called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. He describes those kinds of thoughts like a nasty roommate sitting in the corner, right in your room, and just going at you. Would you take that? You don't take that from your mates. You don't take that from your husbands and your wives. So why do you do it to yourself? Why are you accepting it from yourself when you are the one who has to say, take a seat. No, we're not doing this. I'm not doing this to myself. Yes? So say what you mean and mean what you say. Say what you mean and mean what you say. Even if loved ones tell you, I don't want to love you anymore because the words you're saying, I don't agree with so strongly, I don't want to talk to you anymore. What are you afraid of more? Losing their love or being your real self? So that's the decision you have to make tonight. Number 2, stop taking things personally. When people act out of order, they're talking bad about you, they're calling you names, they're being unkind, it's not about you. So your answer ought not to be, well, if I just am nicer to them, they'll stop. They'll stop if they choose to stop. Because you have zero power over other people in that way. You might have to make a different choice in the way you're interacting with them. Even if you're not taking it personally, you're not going to sit around and allow yourself to be hurt, though, are you? No. So you cannot control their behavior. And it's about them, because they're choosing their response to whatever it is you're doing or not doing. Yeah. But you have to take care of yourself. Yeah. And make choices in your best interest. That is how you minimize your suffering. Stop hanging around with people who are hurting you. There's not much point in that. There's really not much point in that. And a lot of us, again, have many reasons that are childhood implanted reasons about why we stay and allow other people to hurt us. Like I want to be nice. I'm good. I'm a good Christian. I'm forgiving. You know, forgive them 70 times 7. You can forgive from a distance. You can forgive from a distance and maintain your morality with your forgiveness, but also protect yourself. Okay? Number 3, don't make assumptions. Don't assume that people have your best interest at heart, that they have your worst interest at heart, that they like you, that they don't like you. Look for evidence, y'all. Wait for evidence. Ask questions. Ask people to explain themselves to you. And even when they're explaining themselves to you, remember the fifth agreement. I'll come to it in a minute. Maintain skepticism, even though you are staying open to the information. What is suffering blocker? Because in my mind, a lot of us get just brutalized emotionally by people who mean to take advantage of us, who mean to get things out of us, who are very selfish. From my perspective, this is my projection, yeah, based on the actions of certain people. Huh? So you have a responsibility to manage yourself. That's the only person you can control 100%, yourself. Yourself. So don't take what they're doing personally. Don't make assumptions. Be courageous. Even if you grew up in a family where using words was not encouraged, you were not encouraged to share your feelings, you were a girl child, you were taught to be nice and smile, don't be angry. The adult must rescue the child and make a new agreement with your adult self. These old agreements you made with your church, these old agreements you made with parents who didn't really know better, who were doing the best they could in the moment. All right. Now, as an adult, you make new agreements with your adult self so that you stop moving through life like a wounded child. It doesn't help you, and it does not help the people around you. You have a responsibility to heal yourself. You have a responsibility to do that work. If you're 40 and you're still blaming your dad for being a horrible dad, you missed a few steps. There's some work you've got to do. Stop taking it personally. Your father was probably mentally ill. Your father probably did not have the skills as a human being to raise children. Biologically, he did, but emotionally and mentally, he didn't. So at a certain point, you must be able to separate that from who you are. And that's the work of being an adult. That's how you stop a lot of your pain and a lot of the pain we visit upon people because we're hurting. Because what is it? Hurt people hurt other people. But if we do the work, okay, we have enough information now. Look, I'm giving you 5. I'm telling you, you start with 1 and you will see the positive impact on your life. Okay? Don't make assumptions. Use your words. Noreen is saying in our Caribbean culture, you're definitely not allowed to share your thoughts and emotions. And that is correct. I'm inviting you to undo all of that. as you train your children now, where you encourage them to come? How are you feeling? What did you think about this? Hmm? Where you support your children to express use their words to describe who they are, to teach you who they are, so that you can really love the real person, as opposed to your projection of who they are. Yes? Number 4, always do your best. Do your best and forget the rest. Do your best so you can sleep well at night. Do your best so you don't feel bad about yourself. Okay? And the last one, be skeptical, but remain open. You don't know everything. You might come upon a really beautiful piece of information if you're not going to, you'll be okay. You're not going to, somebody's words are not just, you're not just going to explode into 1,000 tiny pieces. If you listen to your partner all the way through, describe why they're uncomfortable with a particular thing. Be skeptical, yes, wait for evidence and proof, but stay open. Stay open. Even when you are learning information that is brand new information and does not line up with things you used to believe or things you used to know, what you're looking for is this evidence based? Is there proof of this? Is there proof? And if there's proof, why would you hold on to the old information? If there's new evidence, why would you hold on to the old information? Yeah. So these are the 5 agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Get the book. Okay. Listen to it on YouTube, on Audible. And you know how, well, me, every time I read a book or I listen to something, the same thing, I'll get a new insight. I'll get a new insight. So listen, 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 listen. You might not have access to a therapist. I understand that, but I'm offering you this book as a recommendation. And if you're willing to put in the work, you will see many positive results. Okay. Karen says, thanks so much for this information. It changes so many things that we otherwise were taught were the only acceptable way, and that's not true at all. And if you use that principle of remaining skeptical when you're coming upon new information but staying open, you as the adult, you get to open yourself up to a lot of brand new beautiful things that perhaps as a child you were forbidden from exploring. You were hit for exploring. You were told this is the only way you must think about this. This is the only way this is true. But as an adult, understand that the person telling you that was their projection, that was their reality. And I am not my mother. My mother existed already. I don't have to be 100% of who my mother was or 100% of who my father was. I am my own person. I get to look at information and decide and make decisions for myself that line up with who I feel myself to be. Again, watch yourself. Are you more afraid of death or of people seeing the real you, learning the real you? As I say that, I think about imposter syndrome, which is a belief that many of us have. Most of us experience it at some point, that we're just not good enough. And if people could only see the real us, they'd run for the hills. They'd say we're not as nice as we are. And in the past year and a half, part of my growth practice has been to do things that people didn't think I ought to be doing. You understand? Like, do things that not everybody agrees with. Because in my childhood, I was very much a child who did what was expected. But again, the adult is not a child. So the adult must revisit their ways, their things, their whatever it is, and decide uh, what is really lining up with me right now. And if it's legal, ethical, moral, I encourage you to go 100 miles an hour. Noreen says, great stuff. Gotta go. Good night, my sister. Peace and blessings to you too. So yes, as we wrap up, I wish you the best and I invite you to be courageous. We're all trying to figure out what this life is about. But while we're doing that, do your best to create a life you're excited to wake up to, as opposed to lugging yourself along. I know that it feels like there's a lot of pressure from many areas sometimes, but do your best with these 5 agreements, these 5 new agreements you make with yourself, you create with yourself, you set with yourself as an adult, okay? I will see you all next Thursday if all goes well. Jackie says, be kind to yourself. Okay, be kind to yourself first. Charity begins at home. Noreen is saying her takeaway is creating the life you want. You have every right to create the life you want. Every right. Yes? And what you do is you do the work, you do what it requires to get those outcomes that you're looking for. Okay? I hope you'll have a lovely, lovely, lovely night and the rest of your week. So I will see you all next Thursday. Use these skills to think better so you can feel better and do better. Okay? Peace.